मीडिया वेव्स के प्लेटफॉर्म तो खबरां दा लेखा जोखा प्रोग्राम के अंतर्गत आप सब का स्वागत है जी आया नूं।
July 23rd, 2024, Khabran Da Lekha program has been sponsored by Hanif Litigation. Any criminal or regulatory law matters, contact lawyer Shahid Hanif at Hanif Litigation 604-626-3144. Several homes damaged by Shetland Creek wildfire TNRD. As wildfires continue to spread in BC, the Thompson-Nicola Regional District says at least 6 homes have been impacted by flames. The TNRD says in a damage assessment that as of Sunday, there were confirmed impacts on slightly over 20 structures, 6 of which has been identified as primary residence due to the Shetland Creek fire in the Venables Valley area. Damage assessment numbers in the area impacted by Shetland Creek wildfire are preliminary at this time due to continued fire activity. The TNRD EOC has worked with a community license to ensure impacted residents are informed about 6 steps in recovery, the district said. As of Monday, nearly 100 properties were on evacuation alert due to the wildfire. Over 200 properties remain on evacuation alert within the village of Ashcroft and Spencer's Bridge. Several orders and alerts are also in place in neighboring areas, the TNRD adds, including the Cooks Ferry Indian Band and Ashcroft Indian Band. As of Tuesday morning, the Shetland Creek wildfire was estimated to be 199,412 hectares located about 7.5 kilometers north of Spencer's Bridge. The fire is still listed as out of control. Today, July 23rd, is forecasted to be hot and dry, similar to yesterday. Winds will be predominantly south-southwesterly, approximately 10 to 15 km an hour, with gusts up to 30 km per hour. Temperatures will remain in the 30s with relative humidity values in the high teens for the afternoon. Medium range sporting may be seen with forecasted winds as fuels remain dry and susceptible or for ignition, the BC Wildfire Service said online. The Shetland Creek wildfire has forced the closure of Highway 1 between Spencer's Bridge and Ashcroft. The BC Wildfire Service says almost 80 new fires were sparked on Monday, bringing the provincial total to 362 active fires, according to the service. The vast majority of new starts were sparked by dry lightning.
इंटीरियर BC ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਗਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਰਪੋਪ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਜਾਰੀ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 80 ਨਵੀਆਂ ਅੱਗਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਲੱਗੀਆਂ ਨੇ 362 ਥਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਇਸ ਵਕਤ ਅੱਗਾਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਪ੍ਰਕੋਪ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਭਾਰੀ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਖੇਤਰੀ ਇਲਾਕੇ ਨੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਬੈਂਡਸ ਨੂੰ ਤੇ ਨੇਟਿਵਸ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੈਂਡਸ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਵਿਤ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਾਹਰ ਕੱਢਿਆ ਗਿਆ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 6 ਘਰ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅੱਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੜ ਕੇ ਸੁਆਹ ਵੀ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਨਿਰੰਤਰ ਅੱਗ ਬੁਝਾਊ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅਮਲਾ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਪੂਰੀ ਦੀ ਪੂਰੀਆਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ਾਂ ਕਰਨ ਦੇ ਬਾਵਜੂਦ ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 80 ਅੱਗਾਂ ਦੀ ਨਮੀ ਦੀ ਬੜੋਤਰੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਖਤਰਨਾਕ ਹੈ।
Canada invests $430 million into BC for aged care workers and drugs for rare diseases. BC is receiving a boost to its healthcare system as the federal government announced nearly $430 million is being invested to support aged care and those with rare diseases. Federal Minister of Health Mark Holland and BC's Minister of Health Adrian Dix announced the funding Tuesday, explaining that the investment is part of the 2 bilateral agreements. The first is through the Aging with Dignity agreement, which will see more than $232 million go towards supporting personal support workers and healthcare assistants. It will be invested over the next 5 years to help BC support compensation for nearly 13,000 HCA full-time equivalents working in publicly funded long-term care and assisted living facilities, the government said in a joint release. HCAs have long provided essential support for Canadians to live and age with dignity. This was especially demonstrated through their dedication working on the front lines during the COVID-19 pandemic. Through this partnership, BC will be able to improve recruitment and retention by ensuring these workers have better wages and benefits, they added. The other $194 million will go towards improving support for rare diseases, the governments explained. This includes procuring two drugs, Botelio and Oxalomo. Botelio is used to treat mycosis fungoides, otherwise known as Alibert-Brezin syndrome, for Sézary syndrome, a disease which a type of white blood cell becomes cancerous and affects the skin. Oxalomo is used in the treatment of hyperoxaluric disease 1, a disease that affects the kidneys, bladder, and urinary tract. In Canada, 1 in 12 people live with a rare disease. While there are thousands of rare diseases, unfortunately, treatments are only available for a small percentage of these conditions. And for most people suffering, the cost of these treatments puts them out of reach, the statement said. Through these bilateral agreements, we are raising the standard for wages and benefits for our healthcare assistants as they continue to provide vital care for seniors and making expensive medications more accessible for people with rare diseases. This is about investing in people and building a stronger, more equitable healthcare system that works for everyone, patients and providers alike, Dix explained.
ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਦੇ ਮੰਤਰਾਲਾ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਅਤੇ BC ਸੂਬਾ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਦੇ ਸਿਹਤ ਮੰਤਰਾਲਾ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਨੇ ਮਿਲ ਕੇ ਅੱਜ $430 ਮਿਲੀਅਨ ਦੇ ਕਰੀਬ ਦੀ ਘੋਸ਼ਣਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਿ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਵਡੇਰੀ ਉਮਰ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਾਂਭੋ ਸੰਭਾਲ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਬਿਮਾਰੀਆਂ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਵਰੇਜ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਵਾਈ ਬੂਟੀ ਦੀ, ਉਸ ਦੇ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਵਿੱਚ ਖਰਚਣ ਦਾ ਐਲਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ $194 ਮਿਲੀਅਨ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਕਰੀਬ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹ ਦਵਾਈਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਵਰਤੇ ਜਾਣ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਹੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਉਹ ਬਿਮਾਰੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕਿ ਵਡੇਰੀ ਉਮਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਂ ਸਕਿਨ ਦੇ ਕੈਂਸਰ ਤੇ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਬਲੈਡਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਬੰਧਿਤ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਬਿਮਾਰੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਅਸਰ ਅੰਦਾਜ਼ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ।
Metro Vancouver's price per square foot most expensive in Canada. Metro Vancouver is home to 8 of the top 10 most expensive places to buy a home in Canada. If you're looking at price per square foot, the latest numbers released by real estate company Century 21 show Vancouver's west side, downtown Vancouver and West Vancouver are the most expensive places to buy in the country. According to Century 21, a detached home in the west side fetches $1,161 per square foot. However, the real estate group explains those numbers stayed relatively stable over the last 6 months, rising modestly. Though BC prices were stable overall for the first 2 quarters of 2024, several Metro Vancouver suburbs saw price increases while Vancouver condo prices fell modestly. Due to families continuing to migrate from the city core to more affordable markets that offer more space, the report stated. Vancouver East Side houses went up almost 18% in price to $975 per square foot, a rebound from a price decrease last year and well below the price per square foot of West Side downtown properties. West Vancouver, North Vancouver, Burnaby, Richmond, Delta, White Rock, South Surrey also increased this year as well, most of them modest, and a rebound from last year's declines. Fraser Valley prices were stable, the agency continued. Meanwhile, on the other end of the list is St. John, New Brunswick. A detachment home in that city fetches just $186 per square foot, just over 16% of what Vancouver commands. In terms of what happens for the rest of the year, Century 21 says interest rates will likely be a major determining factor. The Bank of Canada is slated to provide an update on rates on Wednesday. Sellers may hold off on putting their homes on the market in response to a hesitant buyer base waiting for interest rates to fall, the agency explained.
ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਭਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੈਨਕੂਵਰ ਤੇ ਵੈਸਟ ਵੈਨਕੂਵਰ ਉਹ ਥਾਵਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਮਹਿੰਗਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰਹਾਇਸ਼ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤੀ ਹੈ। ਤਕਰੀਬਨ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕੀਮਤ ਆ $1160 ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਸਕੁਆਇਰ ਫੁੱਟ ਤੋਂ ਉੱਪਰ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੇਸ਼ੱਕ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਕੁਝ ਸਮੇਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਵੈਨਕੂਵਰ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਬਾਹਰਲੇ ਸਬਰਬਿੰਗ ਏਰੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਣ ਦੀ ਮਨਸ਼ਾ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਸਬਰਬ ਏਰੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਥੋੜ੍ਹਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਾਧਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਦਰਜ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ। ਪਰ ਅਜੇ ਵੀ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਭਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੈਨਕੂਵਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਟੌਪ 'ਤੇ ਹੈ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਕਿ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਮਹਿੰਗੀ ਰਿਹਾਇਸ਼ ਆ ਉਹ ਖਰੀਦੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਉਲਟ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਸੇਂਟ ਜੌਨ ਵਿਖੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪਰ ਸਕੁਆਇਰ ਫੁੱਟ ਕੀਮਤ ਆ $186 ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਸਕੁਆਇਰ ਫੁੱਟ ਦੇ ਕਰੀਬ ਹੈ।
Second woman's body found in Vancouver's English Bay. A second woman's body has been found in the waters of Vancouver's English Bay in as many days. The Vancouver Police Department says it's investigating after a woman's body was discovered on the shoreline near the Kitsilano Yacht Club around 1:30 p.m. Monday. The cause of her death has not been determined, and it's not yet known whether her death is a result of a crime, said a release by the VPD. Investigators from VPD's Major Crimes Section and Forensic Identification Unit say they are working to find out if the woman's death is connected to the death of another woman whose body was discovered near Sunset Beach Sunday morning. The VPD says that the death of the woman discovered at Sunset Beach is being investigated by the BC Coroner's Service. Neither woman has been identified. Police say community members will likely see more officers in the Kitsilano area as the investigation unfolds. The VPD is asking anyone with information about either woman to call the Major Crime Section at 604-717-2500.
ਵੈਨਕੂਵਰ ਦੀ ਸਨਸੈਟ ਬੀਚ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਔਰਤ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਲਾਸ਼ ਹੈ ਹੋਰ ਮਿਲੀ ਹੈ, ਔਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਕੁਝ ਕੁ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਅੰਦਰ ਇਹ ਦੂਸਰੀ ਔਰਤ ਦੀ ਲਾਸ਼ ਹੈ। ਮਰਨ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ, ਨਾ ਹੀ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਪੁਸ਼ਟੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਦੋਵਾਂ ਦੀ ਮੌਤ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਕ੍ਰਿਮੀਨੈਲਿਟੀ ਇਨਵੋਲਵ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਦੋਵਾਂ ਦੀ ਮੌਤ ਦਾ ਆਪਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਕੋਈ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਤਫਤੀਸ਼ ਜਾਰੀ ਹੈ। BPD ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ ਕਿਸੇ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਦੀ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਹੋਣ ਦੀ ਸੂਰਤ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਪਰਕ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਵੇ।
Wildfire near Jasper National Park prompts evacuation and highway closures. Thousands of travelers were waking up Tuesday to uncertain circumstances after overnight wildfires in Jasper National Park flared up with a vengeance, forcing thousands to flee. Everyone in the sprawling park, tourists, hikers, campers, boaters, along with 4,700 residents of the Jasper town site were ordered out late Monday night as wildfires pinched off escape routes to the east and south. The result was a long, slow-moving line of cars and trucks heading west through the mountains to BC in darkness, swirling smoke, soot, and ash. Many evacuees sought refuge for the night in Belmont, BC, a town of 1,000 about 120 kilometers west of Jasper. The community is pretty full, said town administrator Ann Yansio in an interview. Every parking lot, boulevard side, on the road, field, anything that looks like it could fit a vehicle is full. Some evacuees spent the night on the floor of the local arena. Others bunked down at the Legion. A local church was serving a pancake breakfast with drinks, snacks, information, and a respite were on offer at Valmont's Community Hall and Visitor Center. It's all hands on deck, Yansu said. She said most travelers were beginning to make their way down the smoky road slowly but without incident. The hope is that most of them will find the long way back to Alberta. On Monday night, photos and videos shared on social media illuminated a midnight cavalcade of bumper-to-bumper cars and trucks, headlights on, red tail lights, glowing cars inching, stopping, starting, crawling through swirling 10 rails of acrid smoke. It's wall-to-wall traffic, said Edmonton resident Caroline Chamble in a phone interview from her vehicle. The smoke is pretty thick. We've got masks in the car. Campbell said it took hours to move just 7 kilometers. She said they had enough gas but worried for others who fled with little in the tank. The Jasper town site and the park's main east-west artery, Highway 16, were caught in a fiery pincer fires threatening from the northeast cut of highway access east to Edmonton. Another fire roaring up from the south forced the closure of the north-south Icefields Parkway that left one route open west to BC. The municipality of Jasper and Jasper National Park said in an updated emergency alert Tuesday morning the evacuation from the town site and the park is progressing well and people should continue to follow directives as the majority of traffic is being directed west on Highway 16. Only when roadside fire conditions license permits, a small group of escorted vehicles will be directed east on Highway 16, the town and park officials said in the alert. In BC, the province has promised to help find places to stay. BC will do everything we can to provide safe refuge of evacuees from Jasper and are working as quickly as possible to coordinate routes and arrange to host communities on our side of the border, Bowen Ma, BC's Minister of Emergency Management, said in a post on the social media site X. Jasper National Park is the largest national park in the Canadian Rockies, home to campgrounds, scenic rivers and lakes, and extensive trail networks. The Jasper blaze were one of the multiple fires throughout Alberta that had already forced another 7,500 people out in a string of remote communities. The province has been baking and sweltering for days in scorching 30 degrees Celsius plus temperatures. More than 160 wildfires were burning across Alberta, couching up clouds of smoke, obscuring the sky.
ਜੈਸਪਰ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਤੇ ਜੈਸਪਰ ਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਪਾਰਕ ਦੇ ਏਰੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੱਗੀ ਹੋਈ ਅੱਗ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਆਪਣੀ ਛੁੱਟੀਆਂ ਮਨਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਗਏ ਹੋਏ ਸਨ, ਉੱਥੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਾਹਰ ਜਾਣ ਦੇ ਐਲਾਨਨਾਮੇ ਤੋਂ ਉਪਰੰਤ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਜਾਣਾ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ। ਯਾਦ ਰਹੇ ਅਲਬਰਟਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ BC ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਅਲਬਰਟਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਵਕਤ 160 ਦੇ ਕਰੀਬ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਅੱਗਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਲੱਗੀਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਨੇ, ਪਰ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਯਾਤਰੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵਸਿੰਦਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਆਪਣਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਘਰ-ਬਾਰ ਉਹ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਪੈ ਰਿਹਾ। ਪਰ ਕੁਝ ਕੁ ਸਮਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਨਿਕਲਦਾ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਰਾਹਤ ਦੇ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਵਿਤ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਲੱਗ-ਅਲੱਗ ਰਾਹਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਵਿਤ ਏਰੀਏ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਕੱਢਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਔਰ BC ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ ਅਲਬਰਟਾ ਵਿਖੇ ਇਹ ਜੰਗਲੀ ਅੱਗਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਵਿਤ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਉਹ ਹਰ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਮਦਦ ਕਰਨਗੇ।
4 suicide deaths in New Zealand linked to Canadian man Kenneth Law. A coroner from New Zealand determined that 4 people who died by suicide received online packages from Kenneth Law, a man from Mississauga and former chief awaiting trial. According to the Radio New Zealand, RNZ, a coroner revealed that 3 students aged 18 to 21 and one 40-year-old personal trainer took their own lives between May 2022 and April 2023. Coroner Alexandra Cunningham ruled that their deaths were found to be caused or assisted by the contents of the package ordered from Law. Law is a Canadian who is accused of assisting suicides by enabling the distribution and marketing of material online and hosting discussion forums for people considering suicide. Cunningham wrote according to the New Zealand publication. The suicide prevention officer requested that New Zealand internet service providers block access to Law's website. The 58-year-old was arrested in May and accused of running several websites that were used to sell sodium nitrite and other items that can be used for self-harm, shipping them to people in more than 40 countries. Law has maintained that the products sold were legal and that he is not responsible for what people do with them. Sodium nitrite, a substance used in meat processing, can be deadly if consumed in large doses. Investigators believe more than 1,200 packages were sent out globally, with about 160 sent to people in Canada. British police have said they identified 232 people in the UK, 88 of whom had died, who bought products from Canada-based website allegedly linked to Law. Law's trial is expected to begin sometime in 2025.
ਨਿਊਜ਼ੀਲੈਂਡ ਵਿਖੇ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਲਾਅ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਉਸ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕੈਨਥ ਲਾਅ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਿ ਆਤਮ ਹੱਤਿਆ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੋਤਸਾਹਿਤ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੀ ਜਾਨ ਲੈਣ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਤਸਾਹਿਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦਾ ਬਲਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਮਦਦ ਵੀ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਉਸ 'ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੇਸ ਚੱਲੇ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਭਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਣੀ ਵੈਬਸਾਈਟ ਦੇ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਸਬਸਟੈਂਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਾਈਡ ਵੀ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਮਰਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਦਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਸੁਭਾਵਿਕ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਹੁਣ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੇਸ ਹੈ ਦਰਜ ਹੋਇਆ ਔਰ 2025 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਕੇਸ ਚੱਲਣਾ ਹੈ।
Advocacy group critical of report into foreign election interference. An advocacy group is criticizing a report on foreign election interference for causing harm to the Chinese community in Canada. The Stop Anti-Asian Hate Crimes Advocacy Group says they are concerned about the way Chinese Canadians are represented in the initial report by the Public Inquiry to Foreign Interference report. The group says it paints a target on the backs of members of their community. My concern is we shouldn't be painted as Chinese spies just simply because I have yellow skin, black hair, and I was born in China, Ivan Pak, the group's co-founder, said. The 200-page report outlines numerous concerns about potential state actors trying to interfere in Canadian elections, particularly China. The document makes serious accusations of attempted interference by China in Metro Vancouver, including limiting political appearances for unfavorable candidates and in misinformation spread in Chinese language, news and social media platforms. The New Democrats Party's MP for Vancouver East, Jenny Kwan, says she believes she was also targeted. There's no question in my mind that the diaspora community and particularly the Chinese Canadian community has been impacted, she said. She says hate-related incidents are happening because of interference, but the inquiry is required to get to the truth. So we are not under the same cloud of suspicions for elected officials to be suspected of being traitors, quote unquote, of Canada, and if we don't sort of get to the bottom of it, we'll continue to live under this cloud, she said. Pak says China may be trying to interfere with Canadian elections, but it is not just the Chinese Canadian politicians who are being influenced. They are smart enough to stop any kind of foreign interference, and I am confident that most of them are loyal to Canada, including myself, he said. He says it is important for Canada to protect itself, but not at the cost of harming Chinese people living in the country.
एक ग्रुप है जिसने कि 200 ਦੇ ਕਰੀਬ ਨੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਤੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਇਤਰਾਜ਼ ਜਤਾਇਆ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਚਾਈਨੀਜ਼ ਭਾਈਚਾਰਾ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਟਾਰਗੇਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਵਿਸ਼ੇਸ਼ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਵਿਦੇਸ਼ੀ ਦਖਲ ਅੰਦਾਜ਼ੀ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕਾਰਵਾਈਆਂ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਅੰਤਰਗਤ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ ਅਗਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਦਿੱਖ ਵੱਖਰੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਆਧਾਰ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਦੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਚਾਈਨੀਜ਼ ਦਿਖਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਕੋਈ ਸਪਾਈ ਤੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਔਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹੇ ਇਹ ਅਨਫੇਅਰ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਕਦਰੋ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ उन्होंने इस गल का भी जिक्र किया कि जरूरी नहीं कि जोड़े चाइनीज़ कैनेडियन पॉलिटिशियन ने किसी भी तरह की इस कारगुजारी दे विच शामिल होण.
Canadians to watch at Paris Olympics, could these be summer games? While Canada may be challenged to match its 24 medal haul from Tokyo at the Paris Olympics, the country does boast a potential star of the games. Swimming sensation Summer McIntosh, 17, has only gotten better, much better, since finishing 4th as a 14-year-old in the women's 400-meter freestyle at the 2021 Games. The Toronto native will swim in 4 individual events and as many as 3 relays, and expectations are high. Summer McIntosh is the single best overall swimmer in the world today. There really isn't anybody better, NBC swimming analyst Rowdy Gaines told his network recently. A lot of people will know that name by the end of the summer. McIntosh holds the world record in the 400 meters individual medley and is very capable of heading the podium in the 200 meters IM 200 meters butterfly and 400 meters freestyle. Gaines compared McIntosh to 2 of the all-time American greats in an interview with CBC. You have your Michael Phelps, you have your Summer, he said of McIntosh, who named one of her cats Mickey as a tribute to Phelps. I think Summer hasn't scratched the surface of what she's capable of doing in Paris. I think her coaches know very well that she wasn't going to have a problem qualifying at trials. They did what Katie Ledecky is kind of doing here. McIntosh will be looking to make early waves in a big showdown on day 1 of full competition when she battles the legendary Ledecky and reigning the world champ Erin Titmus of Australia, the 400-meter freestyle on July 27. McIntosh finished 4th in the event as last year's Worlds before rebounding to win 4 overall medals. If McIntosh can come away with a similar or better haul in Paris, it will go a long way towards Canada staying at 20 medals or more for the 3rd Games in a row. Nelson's Grace note, it's in its most recent projections tapped Canada for 20 medals. Canada's 24 medal total in Tokyo was its highest ever after taking home 22 4 years earlier in Rio de Janeiro. Canada has its highest hopes in the two of the marquee individual sports of the Games, swimming and track field.
ਪੈਰਿਸ ਵਿਖੇ ਹੋਣ ਵਾਲੀਆਂ ਖੇਡਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਖਿਡਾਰੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਕਾਰਗੁਜ਼ਾਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਬੜੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਆਸਾਂ ਟਿਕੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਸਮਰ ਦੀਆਂ ਖੇਡਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਸ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਦੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਪਰਫਾਰਮੈਂਸ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਪਿਛਲੀਆਂ ਖੇਡਾਂ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਬਿਹਤਰੀਨ ਕਾਰਗੁਜ਼ਾਰੀ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਪਿਛਲੀਆਂ ਖੇਡਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਿਕਾਰਡ ਤੋੜ ਤਗਮਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਹਵਾਲਾ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਦੀ ਆਸ ਜਤਾਈ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਖੇਡਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਐਥਲੀਟ ਨੇ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਸਵਿਮਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਖੇਤਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਐਥਲੈਟਿਕਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਵੱਡੇ ਪੱਧਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮੈਡਲਸ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਕਰਨਗੇ.
Majority of Canadians against Donald Trump presidential re-election, poll finds. A new survey finds a good majority of Canadians are not looking forward to the possibility of another term in the White House for former U.S. President Donald Trump. A poll by the Angus Reid Institute finds that 2/3 of Canadians believe Trump would be a bad or terrible for the country should he win the U.S. election and serve a second term. Roughly the same amount believe he would negatively impact Canada's economy, global stability, and climate change. Only 15% of those surveyed think it would be good or excellent to have Trump back in the White House. While those who would support Canada's Conservative Party in the next federal election are relatively divided about this question, the rest of the country is nearly unanimous in viewing a Trump win as bad for Canada, the poll states. The Angus Reid Institute conducted an online survey amongst a representative randomized sample of 1,435 Canadian adults from July 18 to July 22nd. There is a division around which Canadian leader may be the best to negotiate with Trump on renegotiating the trade deal. According to the poll, 32% says a conservative Pierre Poilievre, 20% pick Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and another 32% say neither. Canadians say that another 4-year Trump term will make no difference to the likelihood of them voting Conservative 38%, Liberal 42%, or NDP 47%. Among those who are not fully committed to their current choice, a Trump re-election most likely affirms it, though there are 2 in 5, 39% soft committed NDP voters who say they would be more likely to vote for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party, the poll states. President Joe Biden dropped out of the race on Sunday, ending weeks of fighting among Democrats, many of whom feared he was not up to the rigors of the campaign, much less a second term following his poor debate against Trump last month. Biden endorsed current Vice President Kamala Harris to replace him on the Democratic ticket, but she won't formally do so until nominated by the party's convention delegates. Harris is still in the strongest position to be her party's nominee. Since Biden left the race, the vice president has been backed by hundreds of Democratic lawmakers, governors, and some of the country's most powerful unions.
ਸਾਬਕਾ ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰਪਤੀ ਡੋਨਲਡ ਟਰੰਪ ਦੇ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਫਿਰ ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰਪਤੀ ਬਣ ਜਾਣ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਤਾਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾਤਰ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਵਧੀਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿਹਾ. ਨਾ ਪੱਖੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਨੇ ਪ੍ਰਗਟਾਏ ਨੇ ਬਹੁ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ. ਯਾਦ ਰਹੇ ਮੌਜੂਦਾ ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰਪਤੀ ਜੋ ਬਾਈਡਨ ਹੋਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਗਾਮੀ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਾ ਲੜਨ ਦਾ ਫੈਸਲਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਸੁਣਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਸੀ ਸੰਡੇ ਨੂੰ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਵਾਈਸ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਕੈਮਾਲਾ ਹੈਰਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਐਂਡੋਰਸ ਵੀ ਕੀਤਾ. ਪਰ ਦੇਖਣਾ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾਤਰ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਹਜੇ ਸਾਬਕਾ ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰਪਤੀ ਡੋਨਲਡ ਟਰੰਪ ਦੇ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰਪਤੀ ਬਣ ਜਾਣ ਦੀ ਕਿਆਸ ਗੋਈ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਨਿਰਾਸ਼ਾ ਹੀ ਪ੍ਰਗਟਾਈ ਹੈ.
Secret Service director steps down after assassination attempt against ex-President Trump at a rally. The director of the Secret Service said Tuesday she is resigning following the assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump that unleashed intensifying outcry about the agency tasked with protecting current and former president could fall in its core mission. Kimberly Seattle, who has served as Secret Service Director since August 2022, had been facing growing calls to resign and several investigations into how the shooter was able to get so close to the Republican presidential nominee at an outdoor campaign rally in Pennsylvania. "I take full responsibility for the security lapse," she said in an email to staff obtained by the Associated Press in light of recent events. It is with a heavy heart that I have made the difficult decision to step down as the director. Shetler's departure was unlikely to end the scrutiny of the long-troubled agency after the failures of July 13, and it comes at a critical juncture ahead of the Democratic National Convention and a busy presidential campaign season. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have promised continued investigation along with the Inspector General probe and an independent and bipartisan effort launched at President Joe Biden's behest that will keep the agency in the spotlight. The scrutiny over the last week has been intense and will continue to remain as our operational tempo increases, Seattle said in her note to staff. Seattle's resignation comes to a day after appeared before a congressional committee and was berated by hours by both Democrats and Republicans for the security failures. She called the attempt on Trump's life the Secret Service's most significant operational failure in decades and said she took full responsibility for the scrutiny lapse, but she angered lawmakers by failing to answer specific questions about the investigation. At the hearing Monday, Seattle remained defiant as she was the right person to lead the Secret Services, even as she said she took responsibility the security failures when Republican Representative Nancy Mace suggested Seattle begin drafting her resignation letter from the hearing room. Seattle responded, "No, thank you." The 20-year-old shooter, Thomas Matthew Crooks, was able to get within 135 meters, 157 yards of the stage where the former president was speaking when he opened the fire. That's despite a threat on Trump's life from Iran, leading to additional security for the former president in the days before the July 13th rally.
ਸੀਕਰੇਟ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਦੀ ਮੁਖੀ ਨੇ ਰਿਜ਼ਾਈਨ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ। ਕਾਰਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਇਕਵਾਲਿਆ ਕਿ ਸੀਕਰੇਟ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਾਰਗੁਜ਼ਾਰੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਸਾਬਕਾ ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰਪਤੀ ਡੋਨਲਡ ਟਰੰਪ ਦੀ ਫੇਰੀ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਉਸ ਇਕੱਠ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕੇ ਔਰ ਇਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਵੱਡਾ ਫੇਲਰ ਸੀ। ਔਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਕਿ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਤੱਕ ਉਹ ਇਸ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਪੇਸ਼ ਹੋਏ ਆਪਣੀ ਇਸ ਜੋਬ ਨੂੰ ਬਰਕਰਾਰ ਰੱਖਣ ਦੇ ਲਈ सब कुछ कह रहे सन, पर अज उन्होंने खुद अपनी इस पोस्ट तो रिजाइन कर दिता है।
इसी के साथ हमें दीजिएगा इजाजत। खबरों दा लेखा जोखा प्रोग्राम से until next time, goodbye and be safe.